Hey, what's today? Today is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mastermind Academy. Hey, Doug Butter, welcome back, man. That's pretty awesome. Um, Definitely a name I recognize. Welcome back. I'm glad you're on here. Yeah, 2700X. I'm actually thinking about upgrading. 2700X does me good. I really like the Ryzen builds. I might even try to do a Threadripper build. I'm not really too sure about that yet, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, and I might try to go all the way to the Threadripper. I checked out the 3900Xs. I need a new motherboard. I've got all these USB-C like Thunderbolt drives that work with my laptop, but not with my desktop, and I do all my editing from my desktop, so it's been pretty problematic moving files from my desktop to my laptop, and my laptop's not really powerful enough it is powerful enough kinda to edit, but it's running Linux, and the Adobe suite does not run on Linux, so I'm having some challenges there, so I'm thinking about upgrading, but I will figure that out. I have a My motherboard's pretty old. I think that's the problem. That's part of the problem. All the rest of my components are relatively new. My motherboard's kind of old. I don't know what motherboard will work. Threadripper. Yeah, I don't know. I think so. I think Threadripper uses a pretty unique motherboard, I believe, and I think they're kind of expensive, to be honest. So I'm hoping they've been out for a while, that I can get a motherboard for pretty cheap. I don't even know, but yeah, that's part of the problem. My computer renders fairly well, but I now understand why all the content creators, every time the new Macs come out, every time a new computer comes out, where they're always doing render tests, because man, render time can be substantial. So I'm definitely gonna be trying to figure that out. Threadripper's $1,800. I think there are some cheaper Threadrippers than that. In fact, we're gonna look right now, because I don't think that can't be that can't be the cheapest Threadripper. I think they have like what is this, like 32 cores? Let me see here. Yeah, see, I really don't need 32 cores, 64 threads at all. That would be kind of cool to have, though, just to say I had it. I cannot afford that. Well, I shouldn't pay for that. My wife will be very mad at me. But maybe like higher than a 1950X. I've seen some stuff with the 1950X. I think there's something in between. I think there's plenty of them in between here, like a $600 version. I might upgrade to that. I think it will be worth the investment. Um, Ryzen, pretty sure Ryzen 9 is giving old Threadrippers run for the money. I'll check it out. I haven't checked out many of the benchmarks and stuff on some of the new Threadripper stuff. Some of the new Ryzen 3 series and Ryzen 9 stuff. I'll definitely check it out. I've been pretty impressed, though, with this Ryzen 2700X, especially for the price that I paid for this build. This build is pretty powerful. I think in total I paid a little over $1,000 to build it, and it's been pretty great. I run a 1440p monitor, 144 hertz. I play some games, and it runs all those excellent. The 1070 Ti is pretty dope. So if anyone ever wants to talk computer parts, I'm fairly recently into the computer building series, like scene. I've built a fair amount of computers. I've probably built 10 computers in my life, but I never really cared all that much. I kind of just got the parts and built something. But like maybe in the past 3 or 4 years, I've really started caring about hardware and kind of the cool stuff you can do with these builds. But yeah, rendering your videos feature. Yeah, I mean, the cost benefit of these AMD cards, AMD CPUs is pretty great. I did have a problem. I tried to do this. This was actually a full AMD build originally. I think I had a 580X. I think that's what they call AMD 580X. Is that what their series is called? They had a 580X, and it did not work well. I had a lot of problems with games. I had a lot of driver issues as well. And so I just went back to NVIDIA, and I went and grabbed the 1070 Ti and just upgraded. I tried to save myself some money, but that didn't work out too well. So I think I'm gonna keep with AMD for the CPU, but I'm gonna be diving into. I'm probably gonna stick with NVIDIA for the GPU. The question is Python necessary for DevOps? Bash scripting, I'm trying to dive into it. So excellent question, Carter. So Python is not essential to know for DevOps, but I do think it will substantially help you if you were to learn one programming language. You can get by with a lot with Bash. I mean, you can do a ton with Bash, especially in DevOps. But I would, if you've already got that down, if you kind of got the scripting workflow down, Python would be the language that I would learn. I think it'll be easiest to hop into, and I think it'll be a lot easier than you think. If you are proficient in scripting, Python is good to learn. I would highly advise it. I think you can learn it relatively quickly. I know it's a little bit scary diving into it, but I think you can learn enough Python relatively quickly to be able to utilize it pretty heavily. But you don't need to know it. I would grab, if you are going to learn Python, I would grab on Udemy. I think they have like the Python Bible or something, and it's not super in depth, and I think it's just enough Python to make you effective with Python, especially for DevOps. It's not the video course isn't too long. I was actually surprised about how short it was. So it's not going to make you an expert, but I think it gives you just enough to get good with it. But yeah, would I be able to learn on the job? How much coding do you do on day to day? So that question's interesting about coding day to day. It's about, I guess, one, it's what you consider to be coding. So a lot of people don't consider things like we did last time with Terraform and making those configurations and kind of the stuff we're going to do tonight. I don't really consider that coding. So if you don't consider that coding, I would probably say I write some type of script or program, at least in my position now, probably once a week. But when I was doing just like, I was the DevOps person on the team, and like that's all I was doing, every day I was writing some bit of code, some function to help automate something or to optimize something. So you probably, if you get a job, if you get a DevOps position that has asked for some kind of coding language, you probably will be using a language, daily. But I wouldn't say you're not gonna be writing, generally you're not gonna be writing entire giant programs with it. You're gonna be using it to automate things. You're gonna be using it to, make things a little bit easier on yourself usually. So I wouldn't sweat it if you're afraid of it. You could learn on the job, absolutely, especially if you have that scripting knowledge already. Yeah, Windows 10 on the cheap. There are some websites where you can get Windows 10 for like $8 or $9, but the problem with those is the support. If you were to have any issues, you can get keys. There's a bunch of sites for it. I don't really feel comfortable giving those sites my money. I know you can get Windows 10 for free. I purchased Windows 10 for this machine. You can actually download Windows 10 for free from Microsoft, and it'll just give you in the bottom right corner like this is not activated or something, and you can use it, and you can evaluate it for as long as you want, if you don't mind that little watermark in the bottom right corner. But for the stuff that I'm doing, I just wanted to make sure I had a working copy, so I did pay for that. What I do day to day lately, Mastermind. So I'm a technical lead for my team now, and so instead of being kind of hands-on managing the infrastructure, which I still do, I kind of help. I'm starting to help out architect the actual application and pay a little more attention to the architecture of the application rather than the infrastructure. So we have a Node React, Node JavaScript, React front end, and we've got unfortunately we have a Drupal back end, but just kind of helping make decisions about the flow and the structure and the course of that, as well as making decisions about the infrastructure. But our infrastructure is pretty mature. We are going to be putting in some cool things for the devs. Some things have been brought up recently about some optimizations we can make for the development workflow. So we will be working on those, but we actually just hired a full-time DevOps engineer to help out on our team. So I do have some DevOps support now, so we can start getting back into all of that stuff. But cool. Let's hop into what we're going to do tonight. So actually, let's hop right back into the slides that we were checking out last time. Tonight's gonna be a little bit different. It's only gonna be a little bit different in that I was starting to put together a whole entire Ansible workshop thing here, a structured walkthrough of Ansible. And then I stopped because, one, I've realized through some of the other things that we've been doing that 2 hours sometimes is tough. to kind of get through some of the things that I wanted to get through, especially with Ansible, because Ansible has a little more pieces than Terraform had. But two, I didn't want it to be quite as scripted, especially for Ansible. So Ansible, I've used Ansible before, but Ansible is probably the third best, third configuration management tool that I know best. I'm actually wearing a chef shirt. I didn't realize that this was happening. This is a competitor to Ansible. Chef is the one that I probably know the best. But as I was going through, as I was gonna like learn, set things up, I figured it would be more fun to kind of real time be able to go through this stuff, go through the actual documentation, and figure out some cool things to do with it, in the allotted time of the stream. So we are going to hop into it. We're going to also try, I think we're going to try to use Terraform to do the infrastructure provisioning tonight, since we still have those Ansible files from last time. So we're going to test this out. Again, this is the pilot bootcamp. So we're going to try some new stuff. So yeah, should be fun. But yes, we talked about infrastructure as code last time, and we talked about, being able to create these machine readable definition files. So we want to define and state what we want, and we pass that to a piece of software, and it does those things for us. So for an infrastructure provisioner like Terraform, that will give us actual tangible resources. So it'll give us EC2 instances, it will give us S3 buckets, it'll give us storage drives and EBS volumes and things like that. We can use it to grab real tangible resources from a cloud provider. But we also talked about configuration management last time. So server configuration management. And let's run back through this really quick for anyone who wasn't on the last stream, and to give you a refresher of specifically what server configuration management is. So in DevOps, configuration management is an automated method for maintaining computer systems and software in a known, consistent state. And those things are very important. And why are those things important? Because generally, when you are managing part of your job as a sysadmin, a DevOps engineer, or a site reliability engineer will be to manage production infrastructure that will likely consist of a set of servers. All they need to be set up in a certain way. And so how do you do that at scale? In a world where we can quickly scale out and up, and, we can have, hundreds of servers and thousands of servers. How do you manage that easily without having to, treat them all like pets and log into each of them and, make your changes and kind of do a lot of patchwork that way? How do you manage those things at scale? And configuration management is one way that you might want to do that. And not only does it manage the, whereas the provisioners, you define, those resources that you want. Once you have those resources, configuration management tools are used to set those resources up and to get those into a state that you care about. So after we spin up that EC2 instance, configuration management tool might install all the software and packages that you need on that server, might install the users that you need on that server, the groups, might put files on there that you need and set up certain things. That's what it does for you. And then it keeps those things in a known, consistent state. So not only does it install packages and move things around and make sure things are running and make sure connections are made, and all that stuff. And you can also use configuration management tools to actively administer servers. So maybe you don't need to make a change to these files and to the state of the servers, but you do need to issue a command to all the servers, and you want to do it all at once. You can issue what's called an ad hoc command, and we'll go over that, and it will send that out to all of your dozens or hundreds of servers or thousands of servers all at once, so you don't have to worry about having to log in and do those things. So that is what else came after that. And these are some of the players. So again, I'm wearing the chef shirt. Puppet, Ansible. The reason we're going with Ansible is I think Ansible has done the best job of making themselves relevant. I think they're going to weather the kind of current storm that we have with kind of image-based infrastructures. And Ansible, the tooling for Ansible is a little more flexible. And I think that it is it's the easiest option to come to when you're first learning, and if you're coming from a sysadmin background, which I think I've talked to a lot of people, and that's where they're coming from. And again, this is what I see people using the most nowadays. And and we're going to go into the Ansible site, check out exactly what Ansible is. But again, Chef, Puppet, SaltStack, once you learn the concepts of configuration management, it's fairly easy to hop into another one of these programs. They all do the same thing or very similar things. They just do them in their own way. And so we'll talk about some of the differences in them. Ansible is really cool. I think it's cool to hop into because it's agentless, and we'll talk about what agents are, where Chef and Puppet and I believe SaltStack all require you to install agents on your the servers that you're managing. But cool. Let's and so those are just the two things right there. So we're gonna hop right into it. So the first thing I want to do is, if you hit exclamation point Ansible. I found this walkthrough, and now I did not run through this walkthrough, so I don't know if this walkthrough is good, but again, we can ad hoc change some things, and let's see what we can get done tonight with this walkthrough. So I'm going to copy it really quick, and I'm gonna head over to this site, and it looks cool. I looked through it, because I thought it was interesting. I saw some stuff in there that might be kind of old. I don't know when this was written. 2018. But cool. It says it's a 38-minute read, but I think we're definitely going to blow that time up. It's going to take longer than that, because again, we're going to combine this with what we learned last week, and we're going to have an entire codified infrastructure, or we're going to operate with an entire codified infrastructure. So no more, at least for today, for hopefully, we won't be, if we need to make changes to a server or changes to infrastructure or a server, we're not going to be doing anything in the Amazon console to make that happen. We're going to do our best to stay in the code and write code, because this is the infrastructure as code portion, write code to make those changes. So if we need to make a change, we update the code and we deploy it. And that is generally how why infrastructure as code is great. You make the change there's a source of truth. You know what's going on. It's documentation by default, so you can see what's going on, and you make the changes there and deploy it, and now things are in the state that at least that you expect. Now, whether or not you wrote your configuration files properly is up to you, but again, you can modify that. If you made a mistake, make another change. Let's look at some documentation, redeploy it, and everything should be great. So let's actually hit the Ansible Docs first. So Ansible, let's go tutorial and see if they have and this is the guys thing that I found. Let's click on the getting started, and let's go over some of the Ansible. Maybe they have some interesting Ansible terms and concepts that maybe we should know. Actually, maybe he has them in his walkthrough. Yeah, let's actually go over that. So Ansible. So why are we going to use, so what is Ansible first? Ansible is an open source IT configuration management and deployment and orchestration tool. So they tout it as they say IT a lot, and I think they did a great job. So Red Hat actually owns Ansible, and I think they did a great job at marketing by calling it an IT configuration management tool, whereas I think that Puppet and Chef went towards the developer route, when again, a lot of people who were going to adopt Ansible were those infrastructure engineers already by trade, and traditionally were considered to be to be doing IT, which is interesting. So I think that's very interesting that they chose to call it IT configuration management, deployment, and orchestration tool. So again, you can use it to deploy your applications and orchestrate how your applications work. It empowers DevOps teams to define their infrastructure as code. That's exactly what we're talking about. So they dropped the buzzword soup here: infrastructure as code. They talked about DevOps here, IT configuration management, orchestration, deployment. They're dropping all the buzzwords, but in a simple, declarative manner. So you declare what you want, you run it, and it will hopefully give you what you asked for. A lot of people compare Ansible to similar tools like Chef and Puppet. Again, we talked about that. They all help you automate and provision infrastructure. Yes, they will help you provision infrastructure, but there's a little star next to that. They aren't the best tools for the job for that. But there are a few features that make me prefer Ansible over the others. So that's this guy's opinion here, and we'll see what he says as we go on a little bit. So why use Ansible? And so this is, I think I said this, Ansible is agentless. This is really nice. This is really nice. So you don't need, again, agents are pieces of software that run on a server that allow you to do stuff. So things like Chef, I have a in configuration management. Generally, you'll have a management server. So you'll have one big, like, it doesn't have to be big, but you'll have one main server that does all the orchestration. So you kind of set up this one server and you install like basically a master node of it, and this is what does all the workload for you. So this is what goes out and configures all the rest of the servers. And so with like things like Chef, you have your main Chef server, and then all the servers that this is going to manage. So all the hundreds of servers that Chef might manage, you actually have to install a Chef package, another Chef service on each of those servers before you can do anything with them. Why is that a problem? It's a problem because now you have to build that workflow into your infrastructure provisioning. So we would have to, in our Terraform code, and maybe I'll show you how you can do that, but in our Terraform code, when we were spinning up servers, we would have to put somewhere in there, we would have to make sure that it was able to install the agent. So Ansible's agentless. We don't need to install anything on the servers that we control. It does everything over SSH. So it will actually log in the same way that we log into servers, and it'll be able to manage them that way. And it also uses a push-based approach. Now, what does that mean? You kind of have we'll stick with two options here. There are some variations here, but push-based versus pull-based, or I think they call it, or pull-based. I know there's a few other like people use different terminologies for it, but push means we will go ahead and, push out changes from our master server that we're using to manage everything. We'll push out changes to all the rest of the servers. But things like Chef actually does the opposite. Chef, all of the agents actually check in with the master server. So like the master server doesn't push out updates to them. They all check in with the master server and configure themselves accordingly. And that's what the job of the agent. So there's a few different ways that can happen, and Ansible uses a push. And so we're going to push from one out to many. You could be pushing from many out to many, but we're going to be pushing from one out to many. Chef or Puppet work by installing agent on the host to be managed, and the agent pulls changes from the control host. Yep. So Chef and Puppet both do that. I don't remember what Salt Stack does, but yes, Ansible is a push as opposed to a pull. This is nice. This is really nice because it allows you, again, if you need to push changes to a bunch of servers, you want to force kind of updates or like get things out, being able to push helps a lot. Chef does have some tooling where you can enable this, but you don't have it out of the box. So you kind of got to wait for that polling interval for your servers to kind of check in and make sure and to see a change. So sometimes pulling that pull method can cause you to have to wait for things to happen. And so that's nice. But two, why do people love it so much? It's written in Python, and this is very important. Ansible's written in Python, which means you can install and run it on any Linux distribution very easily. Absolutely. Only a little more difficult on OS X because of the way OS X uses Python, and the way it splits off Python packages, which is really weird. But yeah, it runs in Python. So a few things with that: it's easy to run. And it is fairly, so like you shouldn't worry about doing this right now, but it's fairly extensible. I've seen a fair amount of use cases where people were able to add in core functionality to Ansible because it's written in Python and it's a common language that people know. That's pretty cool. And then it says learn Ansible in minutes. Yes, you can learn Ansible in minutes, but I do think configuration management tools as a whole are a little complicated, especially in comparison to infrastructure provisioning tools. Like, I think Terraform is much easier to get up to speed with than this is. I think you have to hop through a few more concepts to be able to do this, but yes, you can learn Ansible in minutes, the basics of Ansible in minutes. And then I think some of the options that you have in there, because of the amount of things that you may need to do, takes a long time actually to get down. Salt. Oh, Salt can push or pull. Yeah, I use Salt for I went through a tutorial for Salt because the company I was working for was thinking about using it, and I ran through one for like a week, like maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and yeah, I haven't used it since then. So that's pretty cool. Salt can push or pull. I like that. Cool. And it says deploy infrastructure in record time. Ansible can dispatch tasks or multiple remote manage hosts in parallel, which is great. This means you can execute Ansible tasks on a second manage host without waiting for them to complete on the first to reduce provision time and deploy your infrastructure faster than ever. Great. That's why he likes it. We don't need to hop too much into that. So then it looks like he's got an ad in here. Maybe if I click on it, he'll get a little bit of money, maybe just for the click. So since we're using it, I figure I'll click on it. No big deal. All right. So it's saying install Ansible on your control machine. So your control machine is that kind of master server I was talking about. So I could absolutely use my computer as the master, the control machine or the master node. And will I do that? No, I'm not gonna do that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna spin up, we're gonna use Terraform really quick to spin up a master node, and we're gonna spin up 2 nodes that it's gonna manage. So let's just hop right back into, we can do this really fast. I'm not gonna reteach Terraform, but I'm just gonna copy and paste what we have, and hopefully it works. I think it will, or we'll get it to work. All right, so this is the example.tf we were using last time for the walkthrough, and let's take just a quick look over what we have. We're using AWS. We have an instance here, one instance called Mastermind Terraform number 1. We have a second instance here called Mastermind Terraform number 2. Looks like we had added an elastic IP to one of these to this one. Here's what we'll do. We're gonna copy and paste. We're gonna copy and paste this one. I'm actually gonna remove. We don't need this. I'll remove that to make it cleaner. All right, now we have 3 resources. All AWS instances. I'm gonna say Mastermind, Ansible, Control. And again, this is for internal. This is the internal ID, and I'll call it just that, Mastermind, Ansible, Control, Server. Actually, I'll take away the Mastermind. I'll tag this as the control server. So this is going to be the server that we installed that we use to we use this to push updates out to the other servers. And let's call this one Mastermind Ansible. What do they call these? Inventory 1. Let's copy and paste this. Let's call this one inventory number 2. And I think I'm gonna change the AMI in a second, but let's change the name here. Ansible inventory 1. Ansible inventory 2. All right. So just like that, I've written some code to provision me 3 separate servers. Very, very basic, missing speech mark on 2. Ansible speech mark on 2. What are we talking about? Don't know. I don't know what you mean by missing speech mark on 2, line 23. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're right. Missing quotes. Awesome. Thank you for that. Cool. So let me go ahead and deploy this. So we're going to do Terraform, apply, and it's going to run through and it's going to tell me what the changes that are going to be made. I'm not going to look through them now for time reasons, and I want to click yes. And we can check out Amazon really quick. I think I'm logged into Amazon. Let's leave that up. I also like what's happening here in that we're getting more and more tabs. one thing that will happen to you constantly while you're doing DevOps is you will get so many tabs that you'll be overwhelmed and you will have to close them all and start over. And every time it'll feel so good to close them all, but you will lose something that you were looking at and you have to run back through your history. But learning how to manage all your tabs, even though this is not a lot right now, we'll definitely get there. And we'll start getting there the more and more, the deeper and deeper we get into this. Well, let's see. Speech mark is what you'll forever refer to it as. I've never heard it called that as well, but I do like it. So one running instance. Oh, so just like that, we have our Ansible control server, our Ansible inventory 1, our inventory 2. Now we're gonna need to make a change here. I wasn't really thinking. We're gonna need to make a change here. So what did we learn in AWS about, in the AWS section about EC2 instances? How do we log into them? How do we log into them through SSH, but you must log into them through SSH keys. And these don't have a key pair name associated to them. So we can't log into them right now. So we will need to add a key. And so I'm pretty confident this is it. And you would have to look into the documentation for this. It's something that you pick up over time, but I need to give it the key that I use. And I don't know what the name of the key is that I use. Let's see. Documents. I don't think that's the one we use. I think we use the one in downloads. All right, so 0916. I think this is the one that we use. So you're getting to see infrastructure as code at work. So again, we're not gonna make any changes in the console. Anything we wanna change, we're gonna change it in the code. So I've gotta tell it which key, I've gotta tell it which key we want, copy, so that we can log in. And let's close this. Let's copy this whole line, copy, paste that. Copy, paste that. Let's save it. That seems right. Feels good. Let's go ahead and reapply that. And I wonder if this is going to need to, yeah, it's going to need to replace the whole instance. And remember there are some updates that that force a replacement and some that can be updated in place. This is one of the ones that needs to, updating your key. It's going to have to destroy all these and replace them. So we'll let that run and we'll start going over some of the Ansible stuff. I think that's all we're going to need. And I think that'll work pretty well. So you can see here, if I refresh, shutting down all these, going to terminate them, and it's going to spin up some new ones, which is great. So while that's doing that, let's go ahead and do this. Reapply, we'll recreate the instances again. Reapply. So actually, what is, do you have to type, is reapply a command? I didn't even, if it is, I didn't even know that. Let's see. Terraform. Oh, what broke? I don't see reapply, but yeah, Terraform apply will oh, I'm just asking, will apply. Oh, yes. The apply will, the apply absolutely will create them again. So that is what, and so that's why it's important to learn how to look through what's happening here. So anytime it says replace, that means it's gonna take something away and put something in its place. But these little things mean changed. The minuses mean something's going to be deleted, and then the pluses mean something's going to be added. So when you run through here, it's going to let you know things are going to be replaced. And then once you get down here, you can see like all the things that are being added. But you can look through, and if you look through here, you will be able to see that the apply is going to replace those things. And you can also see here that 3 will be added in the plan, and 3 will be destroyed. So that is an indication that they will be replaced. And so it looks like that's already done. That was really fast. Crash. Cool. And let's just make sure, let's try to log into our control server really quick, just to make sure we're good to go. Make sure we don't have to do any networking stuff, because we might, even though I don't want to. I'm going to log into, I'm going to use, oops. All right, now we have 3 screens. So as you see me move through them quickly, I have all my workspaces or all my virtual desktops set up vertically. So we're gonna have this one at the very, we're gonna have our, the way I like to work is I'm gonna have the browser at the very top. I'll have Visual Studio Code in the middle, and I'll have my terminal at the bottom. I'm not going to use the terminal in VS Code for this, just because of the amount of information that we're going to get through here, and we're going to be doing a lot inside of the server. So we're going to have to Vim stuff, and I don't want to do it in a little window. I want to do it in the large window. So let's see if we can SSH into that. So where is my key is here, and I think we're going to need to change. For this, we're going to need to change the, I'm going to change the AMI as well, but let's just see if we can get logged in. All right, so just like that, we're logged into our EC2 instance. We spun one up, and it's all good to go. I don't want to use the Linux 2 AMI for this for a few reasons. One, because of the way that you can enable packages in the EC2 AMI, which sometimes, and I think they've done a good job in Linux 2 to make that not work weird with Ansible. But too much stuff comes by default, and I would like to go ahead and swap that out really quick. Is this Vim? No, this is not Vim. We're simply in a console. We're in our CLI, command line interface. If you're on a Mac, if you go to terminal, or if you're on a Linux computer, you go to terminal, or this is like your command prompt on a Windows machine. This is just a terminal. We will absolutely be using Vim, and I'll go over some Vim commands as we're going through that. But really quick, let's go ahead and update this AMI, and that's the last thing we're gonna do, just because I really want to use Ubuntu for this. Just because we've been consistently using it. I don't want to confuse people with the paradigm of now using Yum and other things. Let's stick with what we've been learning. So paste, and this will also require a replace, and it happens pretty fast. And I think we'll be all set up before 9, and then we can just run through examples and stuff from 9 to 10, which would be great. Glad for punishment. So yes, let's these changes, and we'll let that run. Let that run here. So let's talk more about Ansible. Step by step, guys. It's gonna tell us how to install it, inventory files, things like that. Okay. I actually think in here, what do they have? I remember seeing a page on here a long time ago that was simply a list of there's a couple of high level topics that I want to talk about. Maybe it was in the network automation thing here, and it was like basic concepts. Basic concepts is what I wanted to run over. That's exactly, glad I found it. This is exactly what I wanted to run over. I can't teach you super in-depth Ansible in 2 hours, but there are some basic concepts that I want you to get out of this to help you be able to go off and learn Ansible yourself, and to just understand what we're doing. And so let's talk about these couple of words here. And these things actually do apply heavily across the board in configuration management. They all do them differently. They all have different words for them. But the paradigm of kind of how this works is pretty standard across the board. So control node. Any machine with Ansible installed, you can run commands and playbooks invoking userbin Ansible or Ansible playbook for your control node. So show them the node that you're going to be using to control the rest of your nodes, and this can be any machine that has Ansible installed. You can use any computer that has Python installed to be a control node. Laptops, shared desktop servers can all run Ansible. So absolutely, I could use my local machine to be able to do that, but I just wanted to show you with Terraform that we could spin up our own control node. However, you cannot use a Windows machine as a control node. You can have multiple control nodes. So you can have, again, more than one control node, and you cannot use a Windows machine as a control node. So that's important to know. And that's like the master node I was talking about, a control node, pretty self-explanatory. Now we have managed nodes. So these are the nodes, network device, that you manage using Ansible. So anything that you are using Ansible to, to manage and provision and make sure things are in a known consistent state, those are all called managed nodes. That's their verbiage for what that refers to. Sometimes called hosts. So your host machines, these are managed nodes. Ansible is not installed on managed nodes. Why is it not installed on managed nodes? Just like what we said before, it's because it is agentless. There's no agent. The control node relies on SSH access to be able to log in and to make those changes. Whereas like Chef, like if someone's wondering like what other ways besides SSH can you control a node, Chef actually does, because the agent is running, it does it all over HTTPS actually. So it does it all over web-based protocols to go ahead and get its information about the state that it's supposed to be in. All right, so inventory. Inventory is a list of managed nodes. So now we're running down the line and we're referring to things that we just learned about. So inventory is just a list of managed nodes, just like a store inventory. We've got, 12 blankets, 9 pillows, 14 beds. That is your inventory. Same thing. All the managed nodes that you're using are going to be in your inventory. An inventory file is also sometimes called a host file. And maybe when we get into one, hopefully you'll understand why it's called a host file, or why people refer to it as a host file. Your inventory can specify information like IP addresses. Again, you need IP addresses, are kind of how the internet works, IP addresses and DNS. So you can give an IP address for managed nodes. You can also give a DNS address as well. And an inventory can also be used to organize managed nodes, creating and nesting groups for easier scaling. So you can use your inventory to say, hey, these are my web servers, like this list of hosts are my web servers, and this group of hosts are my databases, and this group of hosts are my middleware. You can use them to group them out and to be able to apply different rules and variables and things to those servers, which makes this super flexible and super extensible, which is really nice. Modules, a unit of code Ansible execute. Each module has a particular use, from administering users on a specific type of database to managing VLAN interfaces. These modules are very similar to the modules that you'll see in Terraform. They're kind of like functions. They are a reusable piece of Ansible. Usually Ansible playbooks that have been written that you can use to be able to easily administer. You can call these modules to do things that you want to do, so that you don't have to keep writing these things. So modules are pretty cool. Tasks is the units of actions in Ansible. You can execute a single task once with the ad hoc command. Ad hoc commands are the commands that I say that you don't actually need to write these down in a file. So we're working on infrastructure as code, but there are ways for you to not have to code anything right from the command line. And I think we talk about ad hoc commands. I think ad hoc commands are in here. It might be the first thing we do. Yeah, ad hoc commands, and you can just use them to perform. You just run a command that you want to run on all your servers or a group of servers, and ad hoc command will go ahead and do that, but it does not exist within your code base. And last but not least, playbooks. This is kind of the main thing of Ansible. Ansible playbooks are these manifests, this declarative code that we've been talking about, and it is an ordered list of tasks. So it is a list. It's made up of multiple tasks that you can run, and these tasks run in order repeatedly. Playbooks can include variables as well as tasks. Playbooks are written in YAML. So we talked about YAML. We talked about YAML being a superset of JSON, and we use JSON a little bit in our Lambda lab. But YAML is pretty it's structure dependent. The structure is important. YAML is not a language. Again, it's a structure. It's a format. And it's pretty easy to read, and it's also a set of key value stores. So it's things like name Aaron, last name Brooks, and height 5'8" and things like that. So it's a key value store, so it's pretty simple to read and to write, to share and to understand. And you can learn more about playbooks here. So I'll share this link in case someone wants to check out these things. All right. So this is a little bit of a lot, and this is why I said this was a little more Ansible was a little more complicated, I think, than Terraform, and configuration management tools are a little more complicated because again, there's a lot that you can do with the system, and because of the use case that it's trying to solve, there's actually a lot of logic. If you have a large scale infrastructure with a lot of different types of servers that are doing different tasks. Being able to use the logic that's built into to Ansible and to configuration management tools can be a little exhausting and troublesome to try to figure out, but hopefully we'll get through some of that stuff today. So first, let's go ahead and get Ansible installed. Where does Ansible need to be installed at? Remember, it's agentless. Very important. Things like this, like I keep harping on like the agentless thing because I think these are key things that make a technology important, and they also sound good in an interview. They like if you came into an interview and you didn't know how to use Ansible well at all, but you went through this and you were able to say, hey, like, yeah, I know what Ansible does. I know it's uses a configuration management tool, and I can use it to make sure I know my servers are in a known and consistent state. And you might say, I actually like Ansible because it's agentless and I don't have to install an agent on a server. I would be like, oh, excellent. You are perfect for the job because that is more than most people know. And those are good things to remember and to pick up that will help you, get a job, even if you don't necessarily know the technology well, because I don't know Ansible super well. So, but I know what it does. And I know some of the cool things about it that why people might want to pick it over something else. And I think those things are absolutely important. So cool, let's back off a little bit. Let me get a little bit of water. Looks like we have a question here. I'm good at Linux, Ansible, and I'm in the process of learning Jenkins, Docker, Nagios, Kubernetes. The full stack there I see. I aspire to be a DevOps engineer, but I'm not good at coding. Does a DevOps engineer work with the developers, or are they themselves the actual developers? And yes, this is always a hard question to answer because everywhere you go is going to be different. Every company is going to have a different need. So you do not need to be great at coding. You will get better at coding over time. There are DevOps positions where they really do need you to, like, you're building genuine tools and you need to know how to code very, very well. Generally across the board, though, I think your knowledge of systems management, being able to administer a system and make sure packages are installed and be able to get applications running and scalable and things like that is generally going to be more of the job. But learning how to code is going to allow you to solve problems faster, especially with the cloud. So learning how to code allows you to use, again, things like Lambda and things to solve your problems. There's going to be a lot of times when you need to put in, all kinds of stuff. You're going to need to be able to code a bit, but you can get there. Again, you say you're good with Linux. Are you good at all with Linux scripting? If you've kind of got the Linux scripting, if you got scripting down, I would say that is, you're good. You've got all that you need, and you probably should just pick up a language that you can do your scripting in, because then you'll learn how to do other things with it and you'll have the options of doing some cooler things with it in the future. But I wouldn't stress over that at all. You do not need to be a great coder to get a job. Lately, though, I have been seeing that more and more DevOps engineer roles are requiring some type of coding interview, or like coding challenge, but it's usually like a take-home challenge. It's been interesting because a lot of them have been like Ansible stuff, Ansible or Terraform, because people care about those things. But do not sweat it if you are not a strong coder. Again, the current position that I'm in, when I got it, I wouldn't have considered myself a strong coder at all. I knew I had written a few Python scripts, but I struggled through them and I kind of learned as I went along. And it's something that you'll pick up, as you have problems to solve using code. It makes it so much easier to learn code because you know exactly what you're trying to do, and you're not trying to do this super arbitrary task that doesn't make any sense. It's kind of it really helps you learn. At least it helped me learn when I was doing things, that I needed to get done with it, which was fun. Yeah, ZSH is pretty cool. Again, I wouldn't get too dependent upon ZSH. I would make sure I understood Bash first and like Linux first and understood some of those things, kind of how the workflow is, because a lot of times you'll be hopping into servers that do not have that shell installed. Cool. So let's go ahead and get this installed really quick. And this says for Ubuntu 16.04. I think we're using 18.04. Hopefully it still works. If not, we'll find a good walkthrough for getting it installed. That should be pretty simple. And I think I ran a new apply, so these should be new and up and ready to go. And they probably have a new IP address. So let's hop into the control server here. Let's go ahead and SSH in and let's get going. I'll run that command I did again. I'll replace the DNS address. I'm connecting for the first time. I'll type in yes. It's closed. Why is it closed? Because this is another important AWS topic. Different distributions, different Linux distributions in Amazon Web Services require different users, default users to log in. And because this one is Ubuntu, the user is Ubuntu. Really annoying. They are not, in their documentation, they are not clear about this. And it's a really annoying concept. So do your best to remember that different distributions have different users that you need to log in as. So Ubuntu, and we're all good. And how do we know that we logged in successfully? Minus the welcome message, because you won't always have a welcome message, but you can check out the prompt here that has changed. It used to be this, and now it is this, and type in who am I, and I am Ubuntu. Fresh server. First thing you're generally gonna do when you get a new server, you're gonna go ahead and do an update. Whoops, I can't spell. And then, wow, I am really struggling here. Update, there we go. I'll let that run really quick and we can check out the tutorial that we have. All right, so it looks like to install this, they want us to use, to install this Software Properties Common application. Or library, and then they want us to install it via a PPA. Actually, I forgot what PPA stands for, but PPAs it's just a repository, personal package archives. So you can actually go here to find them, and it's just it's a relatively simple way to be able to install applications. So it's pretty cool. So a lot of times when you'll install things, it might for it to find for your package manager. So we're using apt. For app to be able to find a package, sometimes we have to install the PPA so that it knows where to grab it from. So what did I do first? So I ran the update. Let's go ahead and run everything they gave us. So we'll just go right down the line. So this is how you should probably run through a tutorial. So you find one, it gives you some commands to run through them in order, make sure they complete successfully. Take a look at the output. You don't need to pay attention to the output of every little line, but make sure you don't see any errors, because sometimes you can miss those to see that something did not install successfully. But we'll go ahead and add this PPA. This happens really fast. And then it'll, for adding PPAs, it'll kind of let you know, hey, we're gonna add this thing. Are you sure you want to add it? Hit enter to add it, and it goes through and it does that. And then whenever you add a PPA, to be able to enact it, you need to update. Whoops. Okay, update. And then it's just install Ansible. Whoa. Sudo apt get install Ansible. Now I could have just sudo root, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to install Ansible. You can see how I didn't have us install a bunch of other stuff. It started using, we're on Linux. Linux already comes with Python on it, so we don't need to worry about that, and it should be good to go. And this is just the process if we're using a Red Hat based distribution. So it looks like he included both, which is pretty cool. But again, I wanted to stick with what we knew so far. All right. Let's see what he has to do next. So now we have Ansible installed. Let's see If I type in Ansible, yep. So I have some Ansible commands available to me, which is great. So, and when I hit enter, it lets me know, that I didn't give it what it needs, but maybe, can I see version? Yeah, so we can see our Ansible version, and that's how you can confirm that it's working properly. If you can type in Ansible and get some output like this, you're good to go. All right, so the first thing, we've got Ansible installed, and the only place that we need to install it, and again, that is on our control machine. Remember the terminology, their control node. Sorry, we've got it installed on our control node. So now we need to manage some nodes. So we have 2 servers. We set up 2 servers here. We have Ansible inventory 1 and 2, which we're gonna obviously put into our inventory file, but we wanna make these managed nodes. So how can we manage those things? Let's see what they have next in here. And so they talk about the inventory file, right on time. So, so now you're gonna get up and running with Ansible in your system. Notice the control host, so that the control host, we're logged in to the control host right now. And actually, because we're not gonna be doing any more in here right now, I'm gonna move this up 1 so we don't have to keep going down 2. Yeah, but we're in our control host now, and I'll clear that. And again, as long as you see Ubuntu at the IP address that's an Amazon IP, we're in the control host. And so they're talking about this Ansible inventory file or host file. We're gonna go ahead and do that, and it shows an example here of how you can group things. So you can give it a name like web servers, database servers, and underneath you can put either the IP address or the DNS name, the DNS domain name for that web server. So we can stick those things in there to put them in a group. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So let's find out where that file is. Where is that file? The default location for the inventory file is Etsy Ansible hosts. So let's go into that. So you could just copy and paste if you'd like. All right, so this is why I was originally kept saying that I wanted to use Vim more often on stream, so people could start wanting to get used to it. We're on the server. There is no way for us to edit via a graphical user interface inside of the server. We have to use a terminal text editor. So we could use like Nano, and we do have Nano on here, which is great, but we're gonna use Vim, and I think Vim's on here. And we're gonna Vim, and we're gonna paste in the file that they're talking about. And so we're gonna open up Vim. And so once you're in Vim, don't forget Vim is a modal editor, and I will tell you exactly what buttons I'm hitting to do things in here. So everything you see here, all these this host file, everything that you see with a pound sign in front of it, hashtag, these are comments. So none of these things are actually being read in the host file. These are for us to read, and it's a little bit of a template for us to use that if we need to use them. And it kind of lets us know some stuff in here, so you can read this stuff and you can see what's going on. And so we're gonna just take a look at this example 2 here, and we're gonna just use this stuff. So great thing with Ansible, what I did was I hit the letter I so that I could go into insert mode. Insert mode is where you're able to type, and I started typing. And at the bottom here, it let me know that warning, changing a read-only file. It lets me know that I'm changing a read-only file. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure we can edit it. So to get out of this, because I've made a change now, if I try to do :Q, it's not going to let me out because I've made a change to it, even though I'm not allowed to make a change to it. So what do we have to do? If you want to force something to happen in Vim, you add a little exclamation point. So :Q, exclamation point. That is how you quit something without saving. So we're going to get out and we're going to do that. Now, it says that this file was read-only. What are some options that we would have to make this not read-only? Now, there are multiple ways to do this. There's only one way you should do this, but there are multiple ways to do it, and this is just enforcing some of those Linux things. And so let's just check the permissions of the file. And you can see here it's owned by root, and the group is root, and root can read and write, and then everyone else can only read. We're everyone else. How can we confirm that we're everyone else? Who am I? We are Ubuntu. We are not root. If I did this, yeah, I did who am I? Now I'm root, but we aren't root. We're not root right now. We are the Ubuntu user, which means we don't own it and we're not a part of the root group. So we can only read this file. So one of your options would be to change the permissions on this file. We don't need to do that. We all know of a way to escalate our privileges, and we're going to use that. But again, this is just to show you, again, to kind of let you know how all of it works and why we can't edit this file. The reason why is because of these permissions. And so what we can do to edit this file is simply call in sudo. And now we should be able to edit this file. So I'm going to hit I again. And I'm going to delete the comments here because I want to use this section. So this gives me a web server section. And now it gives you some examples here. You see we have IP addresses and DNS addresses, DNS names. Let's go ahead and grab what we need from our inventory 1 and 2. So we can use either one of these. We could probably actually use the private ones because they're all should be in the same VPC, but we're just gonna simply, actually, why not? We've never used private DNS. So these private DNS addresses, so public versus private just means that private is internally networked. So they have to be the same VPC. It's internal Amazon networking that allows you to interact with each other. So this is important as opposed to public, which is external networking. And so kind of public facing worldwide. Any people from the outside can get to the server. This is important because sometimes you have servers that you don't need, that your internal applications need to access, but no front-facing things need to access that. So you don't want to expose them to the world if you don't need to. So it's important to know the difference between private and public DNS, and private IPs versus public IPs, but we should be able to just use one of these. It doesn't really matter. I could probably use any 4 of these items. They all point to the same place. They're just networked differently. So we'll try that. And we'll try to use the internal one. So that's 1. And this is number 2. And so this is going to include it. We're going to basically include this in the web server section. You can see here, if you want, you can put a little comment next to it that says managed, and so, well, managed node 1, so manage AWS node 1. And so you can do things like this to be able to help understand what you're doing, or hope other people know what you're doing as well. You can do something like this. Again, everything else you don't need. It's just extra. We're just using this little section right here. And essentially this is your host file. So again, we wouldn't need, I could delete all this stuff, but I'm not going to right now, in case we want to use any of it a little bit later. But I've now added these 2 web servers in inventory. And again, in the step-by-step guide, it looks like that's exactly what he's talking about here. Inventory. This name web servers can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't need to be web servers. You could call it application servers or whatever you want to identify this group as is what you could put right here. And yes, the web servers group. Cool. And we'll save that really quick. And it says to test if all hosts are discoverable by the inventory file, use the following ad hoc command. So let's go ahead and save this. So we'll save the file. To save a file, you're supposed to do : W is to write, that's to save. So you do : WQ to save and quit. But you'll see me, like, people like have written to me before, like, hey, like, I never see you do WQ. I don't think you saved the file. And that's because I use the shortcut, which is Shift ZZ, and it does the same thing. I learned about that a long time ago, and it's part of my muscle memory. So you'll see me do it a lot. And I just wanted to make sure you knew what it was. Cool. So let's run that command and check the command that he said to check and make sure it's all set up. Ansible all list hosts. Let's paste that. All right. So first thing we've done is confirm that our inventory file has been set up and it's reading what we have. So 2 hosts. These are the 2 different IP addresses that we have. So that's pretty cool. We're all good there. You can also list hosts by their group name. So this is nice if you want to check out hosts by group name and Ansible, and the name of the thing is host. Sorry, that's my dog. Host all. And so we could do something like web servers, and that should show. But if we did something like DB servers, we don't have any, so nothing should show. So it's just a very quick way to make sure your inventory file is set up. So yeah, so I'll let people, if you're following along, I'll give you a chance to kind of catch up here and get your inventory file set up. I'll pull back up our inventory file if you want to copy in what we have. You can't use the ones that I use. You have to have your own servers because you will not have the key that's necessary. And that's just a little pre-spoiler of what, when we try to run the next thing, it's gonna fail. And we'll figure out how to add in the keys. I think I remember how to add in the keys. I think you can just add it in as a variable, but we'll Google around. We'll figure it out. We'll definitely figure it out. Looks like there's a lot of chatter here. So let's see what we have. Remember what it was when SSH just hangs when connecting to your EC2 instances. You probably need to open up the security group to allow access over port 22. That's very likely it. So ports, all protocols, my inbound security groups. DV, that's actually a good idea. We can watch the handshake. It could be, so a lot of times people don't realize it could be especially if you're using the non-default VPC, it could be that you did not configure your VPC properly, but I'm assuming you're using the default one. So that might be it. So couldn't we use the output from Terraform and extrapolate that for Ansible to interpret and do this for us without needing to go in AWS? Yes, absolutely. We could absolutely do that. Yes, we could do that. That would be very confusing, I think, for a lot of people right now. And I think we'll dive deeper specifically into infrastructure as code as its own like true deep dive, where we'll do stuff like that. But as a part of this, I think we don't want to dive that deep. But I want you more so to just understand what Ansible is and kind of see it in action and see how to use it, so that just enough so that you can kind of hop in yourself and start to try to, just recreate what we've done and expand upon that for sure. It's trying to use my PIM for the host name. That's dumb. So your command might be a little wrong. Oh, make sure you add a -I. That's probably the problem. Yeah, there we go. -I, key.pim, user and IP address. That is right. Isn't there a X2? Maybe that was in reference to the permissions. So yeah, I guess I don't really remember what what that was for. This is for Vim. X command, like, let me need to write only when changes have been made. I don't know, actually. I don't know all of the. Oh, hold on. Test. I did not know about this. You taught me something great today. I did not know about that at all. So learn something new today. Now you guys all know another Vim shortcut. So yeah, if you want to save it, man, why is that never? I've never seen that as an answer to the how do you save and quit thing. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. But I'll delete that and I'll start using. Well, I'm not gonna start using that because my muscle memory tells me otherwise. But that is pretty cool. I really like that. Definitely really cool. I love learning. I love learning all these little things like that. Cool. All right. So what do we have now? So we have our host set up, and let's go back into what they said. And so the first thing he says, we can run an ad hoc command. So this is we haven't written any Ansible files yet. We haven't written any Ansible playbooks or any Ansible tasks or things like that. So let's see if we can just run an ad hoc command against our service or our servers. And it says here, the ad hoc command that they want to give to us now is to be able to ping them. This seems weird. To find out if all hosts are up and running, use the following ad hoc command that uses the ping module for Ansible. Use specifies the user. Ansible will connect via SSH. Okay, that is a weird mod. We're gonna do this. I have questions specifically about this ping module. It seems dumb, but it seems dumb that we're gonna have to log in to ping it. I'm wondering what it's doing, but no big deal. We're gonna run what it says because we're running through It's tutorial. We're learning. All right, and so it looks like we're doing that. It says, you know, we can see our the SSH message, the fingerprint message you get when you first log into a server. And when we type in yes, we get errors. Red almost always means there's a problem, and it looks like it says, hey, like failed to connect. It hasn't been changed. It's unreachable. Can't get to it. You know, permission denied. Public key. That is the error that you get when you are not using a key. So how do we use a key? Again, this is only key-based authentication. How can we use this key? So if you weren't sure, so I know that we can use this as some type of variable, but if you're not sure, if you say, hey, like, I really want to, you know, set up Ansible and I'm using AWS and like, you know, I can't figure out, I can't authenticate, like, how do I do this? You simply go to Google and you say, hey, type something like Ansible AWS key authentication or something. And we'll see what we get here. It looks like, so I have found when Googling, when working with someone who was pretty new to this, kind of at their computer with them, it was very interesting to realize how quickly you learn how to decipher what is probably good for you and what probably isn't, purely by the little blurb here, the little quick one-liner summary that I know this is likely not it. There's probably something in here, but I probably have to dig for it. I can already tell straight up front that this is probably how I create an access key, but not necessarily set one up to be able to use it. Same thing here. This might be a blog that might give me something, so I may open this up in a new tab. Create an AWS EC2 key user Ansible. That's not something I want to do, but you can kind of see these things very quickly. Stack Overflow is usually your friend. This one looks perfect. Maybe it's right, maybe it's not, but this seems like something I might want to use. This person is saying exactly what we want to do. I want to use a public AWS key pair for running Ansible playbooks. I want to do this without changing their ID RSA.public. How can they do that? And it looks like right here is exactly what I was looking for. And did someone answer that? Yep. So in our, so this answer, you know, if you were to find this yourself the first time, it may take you a long time to, one, they don't tell you in this answer where to put this, but you can kind of extrapolate from, you know, you probably have to read the person's problem and then come back down and say, oh, like this looks like the same setup as our host file or our inventory file. So maybe it looks like it goes in there, and then you got to look through and they're using dashboard, and you got to realize that this says, you know, this is the name here matches this one. And, you know, it's hard sometimes to figure out what is just text, what is custom stuff, what are things that the application knows about. It takes a lot of time. It does take a lot of deciphering and takes a lot of time. The only way you get good at this is from Googling a lot and trying things out. And you'll really start to pick up and understand how these things work. And you'll be able to find answers really quickly. You know, you'll be able to decipher information from Google very fast. It is a very important skill to have when you're doing this stuff for sure. But it looks like I can specify a variable, which is Ansible SSH private key file, and then I can give it a path to that file. So let's copy and paste this first, and let's get this set up in our inventory file. And how do we edit our inventory file? I think it was at Etsy Ansible host. Yep, that was it. I got lucky. I forgot what it was called. So we will we'll paste this in, and to set up a variable, the variable section, we need to type in web servers to denote that these are the variables for web servers. All right, and my key is not called mykeypair.pm, and it's not in this directory. So first things we need to do is we need to use some of our Linux prowess, and we need to be able to get the private key from my local machine onto the server. And then we need to tell this file where to grab it from. So let's save this for now. Let's use the new thing that we learned. Let's use the Command X, which is pretty cool. And I cannot modify it because I did not do the sudo. Really annoying. But I'll copy and paste I'll copy this so that when I get back into it, I can just paste it. And I will sudo this, and I will paste this up top here, and we'll save this for now. And I'm gonna actually log out of the server. So a Control D will log you out of whatever user you are at the time. And if you are, the original users that logged in, it will take you out of the server, let you know that it was closed. I can see that I'm back on my local machine. Again, I can type in who am I, see that I'm a Brooks. All right, so what tool can we use to get the file from our local machine up to our server? The thing that we can use is SCP. There are some other options for it. If you like FTP, you can use that. I don't recommend it. SCP is what I would use to do that, or you can put it somewhere to download. That's probably not that secure, but we're gonna SCP it up. So I'm going to do so actually I'm gonna modify, instead of typing in the whole SCP command, SCP is the same thing, as the same protocol as SSH, and it follows the same paradigm. Mostly follows the same paradigm. So I'm gonna find that SSH command I ran. So what did I do here to make that pop up that fast? Let's clear this. I press Control R, which does a reverse history search, and I can start typing in a string, and it searches through the history of the commands that I've run backwards. So from the most recent to the oldest, and this pops up. And so to use this, I just hit the arrow here, but you can hit enter to rerun the command. All good. Again, if you don't remember the command you ran, you can hit up to cycle back through the things that you've run, again in reverse order, or you can simply type in history, and you can hit like exclamation point to be able to run a number. So to log back into the server, I can just run this right here, SSH. I can do 210. And just like that, it logs me back into the server. So there are a lot of options to remember what commands you've run, but I'm gonna look for SSH, and I'm gonna change this to a SCP command. So SCP is secure copy. It's basically a remote copy over SSH. And so I can leave this key here, and then I have to give it a source and a destination. So my source file is in my downloads folder. Downloads, and then it's called 09.pem. So this right here is the full path on my local machine to my PEM file that I want to copy up, and then I have to do the same thing. So Ubuntu at the server address, and now I have to give it a location. And to give it a location, you give it a colon at the end, and then I'm going to put it in my user's home directory. This is a shortcut for home. So this is the same thing as me putting in /home/Ubuntu, because Ubuntu is my user on that machine. But I just like to do this, and we'll hit enter. Cool, got it right the first time. It lets me know it's uploaded 100%. Cool, so let's get logged back in. So I'll run my SSH command again, and I'm logged back in. How can we check what's in our home folder? So I didn't tell you this, but almost always, not almost always, when you log in as a user, you'll get logged straight into whatever that user's home folder is set up to be. So if I type in pwd, you'll see that I'm at /home/Ubuntu, which is my user's home directory. So let's check to see if this file is there. We can do an ls, and what do we have here? Perfect. We have that PM file right here. So we were able to successfully upload this to our server. So to our control node. Our PM is on our control node. Now we need to go in and we need to modify the inventory file. I won't forget sudo this time. So sudo vim/etc ansible hosts. And we need to tell it where to grab that key pair from. And I probably should have copied where that what the name of it was. So tilde slash was it 0916 2019 dot, I think that's it. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna try that out. Yes, that looks right. And now let's try to run that same ping command that we ran before. So where was that at? So I can combine some commands together. I could have did Control R here, but just again, try to do things in a lot of different ways so you can see all the different ways you can do things. So now I can see the number of the ping command that I ran, and let's rerun 27. And once again, it has failed. So let's see why it has failed. Can't establish. Cool. I think I know why this is probably happening, but let me check one thing real quick just to make sure my hosts are fine. I wonder if this has to be /home /2 09/16/2019.pm. And so what you can do is, this might be because I'm using the internal address and because of my security groups as well, but we can confirm this real quick by just doing this. We can confirm this in a lot of ways, but let's try this. -I Ubuntu at. Okay, so we know the network connection works. So you can see here that my prompt changed with a new IP address, and you can see here I got a welcome from the other server. So we know the connection is right, so this is just a way for you to confirm whether or not it's a connection problem or whether or not it's a way that you set up these variables. And let's log back out of there, and let's take a look back at our host file, and let's see. It feels right, but maybe it's not right. So let's look back at this. Dashboard domain equals domain.info. All right. Agent add sh pair. This looks good. Dashboard vars. Let me make sure I spelled everything right. I did not. Oh, yes, I did. Web servers, vars. Feels right. .pm. One more thing. Ansible sh private key file. All right. Just want to make sure this is not the way. Dashboard. Cool. And let's see. Now, let's save this. Let's get out of this. Oh, got it. The problem is with our command, and this is what happens when you're working too fast. You have to pass in a user. So basically, let's just break down this command, what it's doing really quick. This is to run the ad hoc command. It's running Ansible, and it's running it on all of our managed nodes. So this all could be web servers to only run on our web server nodes. And then we're using the ping module. And the problem is you have to be using the right user to be able to authenticate properly using that key. And the reason I didn't catch that originally is because, check this out. I think this works. Yeah, so the user variable is actually gets set when your system, when it boots or when you log in, that variable gets used. So this would actually work. That ping command, I saw a user and I thought they were using a variable in my head. So this would probably work if I did this. And so yeah, you see it works. We get the green when I put the $sign in front, because now it's specifying. But when there's no $sign, it's actually trying to log me in as the user, which is wrong. So you could just actually put in Ubuntu here. And cool. So now that was our problem. And you see here that was a good. These are kind of the little things that you find real time when you're running through stuff like this, and why you need to actually run through stuff and practice it. Because if I didn't tell you what that answer was, if I didn't tell you exactly what the problem was there, ideally you would have read through this and not have run through it as fast as I did. Maybe he would have told you to change the user to your user, change it according to the non-root user you created earlier. So we didn't read that. We went too fast, and you might miss things like that. But the amount of knowledge that you would learn, one, Googling around to try to figure out how to include your key is valuable. And two, being able to figure out that you didn't include the right user and break down this command teaches you a lot as well. Let's see here. It's cool. I've been ignoring the chat a bit. Let me check that out. Did anyone ask any questions? I'll try with full path to the key swap for IP2. Yeah, those are great. I like the troubleshooting tips you guys are giving to be able to try different things out. It's perfect. Yeah, try the full path to the key. Let's see. That was T-Rex. That's smart. I hope you didn't fall for that. Screenshot. Actually, yeah. What are you just having a problem getting logged into the server? It might be user. It might be that. Well, no, it should give you an error if it's the wrong user. It actually should give you a pretty clear error. Rsync is another great way to transfer files. Absolutely, Rsync is a really cool tool to use generally to sync things, but you can also use it, to move things around, which is nice. So Rsync is pretty good. You can also Rsync over SSH as well. Latency issues. I don't, from the metrics that my performance metrics that Streamlabs puts out, I don't see any issues. Hopefully, let me know if that is a problem. You're always good to real life scenarios. Cool. Slack seems like port 22 is just not listening or allowing traffic. Yeah, it might be a VPC issue. Yeah, there issues like this are hard to troubleshoot kind of real time over text chat. Maybe share some screenshots of like your security groups, and maybe of your maybe in the Slack share some screenshots or something of what you have set up so far. Maybe we can get you some help that way. Oh yeah, so that is in your security groups. So I'll actually show you right now. Let me show you. So if you're trying to figure out if what's allowed over 22, you can go to the EC2 overview page, look at your instances, go down to security groups right here, and just click on whatever's right there. And that will pop up like this. And we can do inbound. Maybe use Terraform to get the VPCs proper. Yeah, that would probably take up a little more time than we have right now. But yeah, that's probably something we should have done, is actually set up the full VPC with Terraform and the security groups as well with Terraform, so that was all good. Maybe later on after the stream, we can I can make a repo for us to kind of get a base like Terraform file going with a full working VPC, like maybe 2 or 3 instances that you could spin up at any time. But you want to click on the inbound here, inbound tab, and make sure that you see SSH or port 22 open to at least your IP address. But this is open. This means it's open to anything, and that's probably fine for you for now as well. So that's where you want to go to check if it is open to port 22. Cool. So where are we? So we've now been able to actively connect to our managed nodes. So our control node has been able to actively connect to our managed nodes, and we haven't had to do anything yet. I had a source set wrong on the inbound rule. Excellent. Glad you got that worked out. Cool. Perfect. All right, you will have lots of security group issues in your career. Promise you that. So now that we have done that, what does he want us to do next? Ansible modules. So I'm actually going to not use a module right now. I am going to. I like this. We're just skip straight into playbooks for now, and then we might circle back on modules in a second. Let's actually create a playbook, because I think this is the part that's fun, and I'm just looking at time, and I want to actually get some stuff installed, and we'll break this down. So what you're looking at right now is a playbook. Again, remember, a playbook is a set of tasks. It's in order, so it runs this in order, set of tasks, and each little thing is a task. You can see your task, and it's broken down in a few different things. We're gonna copy and paste this, and we're gonna break down and see if we can figure out what it's doing, and then we'll take this once we know what it's doing, and we'll modify it to do some things that we want it to do. And that's a lot of times that is what you'll be doing. You almost never need to start from scratch. If you don't know how to start from scratch, you can copy and paste something and start building from there. I find that to be easier when I'm first learning something, is to take an example. take an example that someone already has out there and to understand, break down that example, figure out what it's doing, and modify it accordingly until I get up to speed with that technology, and then I can go ahead and do it myself from scratch. So now we're gonna have to hop back into Vim. Your Ansible file can be anywhere. Your playbook can be anywhere. I'm gonna make a directory here called playbooks, and I'm gonna cd in the playbooks, and I'm going to make playbooks have to be a YAML file, so it just has to have the .yaml extension, and we're gonna call this example.yaml. And so this is gonna create me a brand new file, open up a text file for me to use inside of Vim and to edit. So we've opened that up. We open up a brand new file here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste in what we did. So it is important to note that in your terminal, at least on Linux, and actually just on Linux, if you're running Linux, if you're using a VM or something, you cannot copy and paste out of the terminal and back into the terminal with Control V and Control C. You have to do Control Shift V and C to paste or to copy from a terminal. That helped me a lot. I actually spent like the first 3 years of my career thinking you actually could not copy and paste out of it. And I used to like manually type stuff until one day someone was helping me, looking over my shoulder, and finally told me that you could copy and paste with the keys, and you could use Control Shift. Linux is also cool because you can actually do you can middle mouse click. So let's say I'm gonna save this file really quick. You can actually highlight something. I can highlight this and I click down here, and if I click the little scroll wheel in Linux, if you do a middle mouse click, it pastes for you, which is nice. I think this is the only OS that does that. I think on Windows, if you're in the terminal, or if you're in either the Windows subsystem for Linux, or if you are in command prompt, I think if you just right click the mouse, it will also paste. You don't need to right click and click paste. You just hit the right click button, and I believe it pastes for you. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So we have this YAML file, and again, I said the YAML is our key value pairs, and you can see here the hosts that we want to manage with this playbook, our web servers, and we want to gather facts. So facts, and there should be something here on facts, but facts is just information about the server. So when it's gathering, let's see if we can find that in here. Gather facts. Just so I want to see I don't know all the things that it does gather, but gathering facts, it gathers information about your remote host, about your managed node. And so when you gather those things, let me see if I can see what it gathers. But you can use those facts. You can use that information to perform the logic that I was talking about, or know what packages or things to install. You can use it to gather, to easily gather and query information about your services, about your remote servers. But we don't need to do that, but I'm going to leave it on yes, just because. Yeah. And so the next thing, it says become root user. We're not going to become root user. We are going to, I think the option is, we want to use sudo to install this stuff. So I think it's use sudo. And I think it's yes, that feels right. And the way you will find out something like this is you will probably take the default thing that he said and that become root thing, and you try to run it and things wouldn't work, and it will probably give you some type of permissions error. Actually, you know what? Let's undo. Undo in Linux is you just hit U, it'll undo for you. Let's leave that here and let's see what happens. I think we're gonna get some errors with this become root user, but we'll leave that. But let's break down what's happening in these tasks. The tasks that it wants us that are set up here are first one, you give it a name, very descriptive, very easy to you don't have to break down any code to know what this is doing. It says install Nginx, very simple. Looks like we're using apt here, and we specify the name of the package equals Nginx. And we're setting the state. So remember let's actually go right on back to the slides. And what is the last thing we say here? Make sure that systems and software are in a known, consistent state. That state is important. And it looks like we want to make sure the state is present. So we want to make sure that Nginx package is present on the system. And this is the this is the paradigm in which they make you do this. So that's where the learning curve is a little bit high to me when you're first starting out, is that like to know how to describe what you want to happen, you got to look at a lot of documentation to be able to know, this is what you're supposed to type. But it's pretty easy to find. And again, it's pretty easy to get the hang of finding that documentation and knowing how to set it up. So this notify is pretty cool. So notify is a feature of, and again, I'm pretty sure all configuration management tools have this. What it does is whenever a task runs, after it's done, it lets that notify, basically says, hey, do this task, like notify this task. So there's actually another task. Not task. For this, it's not called a task, but a handler here that's called Restart Nginx, and then it has a service that it's going to be restarted. So basically, when this happens, it's going to go ahead and it's going to run the Restart Nginx handler, and Nginx will be restarted. So this could be for anything. So let's say for Nginx, if you update the configuration file, or like you add a new virtual host, because you want to start serving a new website, for that to take effect, you need to reload Nginx before. So you can make all the changes you want, but Nginx will not do anything with that until it's reloaded. So you could say something like, hey, this task is to update the virtual host on the server, or load it in. And if basically when it runs that task, if it actually has to run that task because there's some changes, it says, hey, because I've updated a file, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run whatever handler you set up, which is Restart Nginx. So there's some logic there. Once we install Nginx, as soon as it gets installed, we're going to go ahead and restart it. And why would you restart it? Because restarting it, even if it is stopped, it will start it. So that's pretty nice. Cool. And so another task. So every time you see a little dash here and a name, you're at a new service. And the next service is called Enable Nginx during boot. So there is, you can install applications, but when you restart a server or you shut a server down and bring it back up, not all applications will start by default. To do this, you can add this to your RC file, your RC local or rc.d. But what's happening here is we can enable this to start at boot time. And so we're doing two different things here. We're installing Nginx and we're enabling it to start when the server restarts or boots, which is great. So we're doing two different things here. And then we have this Restart Nginx handler that watches for whenever Nginx gets installed, and it'll go ahead and it'll start Nginx up basically. So this setup right here basically confirms that at all times Nginx should be running on the server. And then down here, it looks like we're going to do some stuff with DB servers. We're not using any database servers in our example, so we're just going to go ahead and delete all these lines because they don't matter to us. Now, first thing we need to do is I'm actually going to go into our security group, and I'm going to edit because we are doing something over. We're going to be installing Nginx, which is a web-based web server that serves content over web protocols, which is HTTP and HTTPS. And what we're gonna do here is, actually that was already here. No, I added it because of that's the IPv6 thing, but cool. So what we can check here is that one, we can first check that these servers do not serve any content over HTTP. And how can we do that? Simply hit them from a browser, and when I hit the DNS address, nothing should load. Unable to connect because this server is not serving anything over port 80. It's not serving anything over the web HTTP protocol. So how can we apply that basically? Actually, let me stop there, answer any questions. Is apt-right package manager? We're not on Red Hat base. No, we are. I switched to an Ubuntu AMI. We are not. We're using all three of these servers are Ubuntu based. So we are using apt for this. Yep. Let's see. How do we roll back? How do we roll back with Ansible playbooks? Great question. We can do that in a second as well. Quick question: is it smart in production to put the Ubuntu user in the vsudo file and give it sudo permissions? So I would not do that. I don't think it's smart to do that. I think it's smarter to manage your permissions accordingly. So any services and tools that need to be run by that user, I think need to be set up with the proper permissions. And I think every package, every file, every service, every binary that needs to run via a certain user, I think that is how you would do it. I would not, I wouldn't do that, but yeah, I wouldn't do that. I would figure out another user management paradigm. I mean, honestly, in production, you should probably remove this user. You can actually change the user that you log in as. The only problem is you got to document it somewhere. Again, hopefully in your infrastructure as code. Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't. If you need to log into your servers, I would figure out a different permission strategy than just giving the default user vsudo access, for sure. Yes. Okay. So it looks like somebody, Carter, thank you for that. Yeah. So instead of saying present, if I wanted to remove this package, I could say absent, and basically that'll just make sure if I say, hey, we're not using Nginx anymore. Nginx will break all of our stuff, and people keep trying to install it and all this other stuff. We need to make sure this is gone from all of our servers. You can absolutely go ahead and change this to absent, and that will delete some things. That will make sure the package is removed. Cool. So let's go ahead and let's go back to his step-by-step guide. Let's see if we can run it. Let's see in here where we can run it. He explains kind of what's happening. And it looks like we can run Ansible playbook. Looks like that's the name of the playbook and the user we want to run as. Let's go ahead and try that out. So Ansible -playbook. And then we can do the name of the playbook, which is example.yaml, and then -u for the user. And what was the user? It was Ubuntu. And we'll run it. And it'll run and it'll say play web servers. And ooh, that's nice. Okay. Excellent. This is great. I didn't expect this to happen, but this is great. It says task gathering facts. So it kind of breaks it down into everything that it did. So the first thing it did was gather facts. And again, it goes in order. So we'll take a look back at the YAML file, but it looks like it did that okay. It says green, okay, looking all good. Then it says when trying to install Nginx, it could not find aptitude using apt-get instead, and that failed. So I think this failed for two reasons. But again, you could take this and you could Google the error, and I'm sure you would find something about it. About it specifically, look through the error. It lets us know here, install Nginx failed, could not open lock file, permission denied. So we know, what did I tell you to think about whenever you see a permission denied? You need to escalate your privileges. Sudo might solve this. There's some other ways to solve this as well, but sudo is probably what we want to do, which is weird because this might be very confusing. At least this was very confusing for me the first time I was like, oh, it says become root user. I thought we could just become root. The problem with that is I don't actually think you can just assume. I don't think you can just assume root users by default on. Or you can't just log in as root user by default on Linux machines. I think that's the problem. But you can use sudo. And offhand, I think it's use_sudo. But like I say, Ansible playbook sudo. Let's see, understanding privilege escalation, and let's see what we have here. Become user, so become flag state. Let's search the page for sudo. Let's hit next. Doing su still work. I don't know if this is what I want. Let's check another one. It's either use sudo or it's just sudo. It might just be sudo. Try that in a second. Sudo, yes, that's all you gotta do. Again, we found our answer again on Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow generally is the perfect place. It's so effective because people can just paste in their problems basically, and it's generally a problem in the same way that you have it, and you can get that. So there's some other options here, but we're going to use this sudo yes instead of become root user. And let's do this. So we're going to delete this line. So whenever you see me delete lines quickly, the way that I do that in Vim, again, this is just another, Vim has a huge learning curve, and I like to give you the shortcuts, but you just hit DD, and that deletes a line. And then if you want to re-enter a line and start typing, you can hit the O key, and that will create a new line, and it'll put you into insert mode so you can start typing. So I'll go sudo yes, and we'll try to install this here. And I think this will fail too, but I think it'll fail for a different reason, I hope. And this is just me running through what I generally know to be true about installing packages. Well, let's run it again, and let's see if we get some different output this time. And so that's usually what you're looking to do. You're looking to make a change, and you're looking to get different output. And it does look like we got way more output here, like way more output. And breaking this down is, again, it can be overwhelming at first, but I wouldn't sweat it. Let's scroll to the top to see where we find it. So it says the same thing again, cannot find aptitude using applicant instead, but we did not get a permissions error. And then we can see here, it failed to fetch certain things, failed to fetch the packages it was looking for. URL not found, cool. Now, this will take you a little while to find the answer, but generally, out of the box, Nginx is usually not included in the main. It's usually not included in the main mirrors and the main repos until you update. So once we spun up the server, we did not do an update. So let's let's make sure that every time this happens, that we run an update first. So how do we run an update? So app get update is how you run an update, but how are we going to do this here? So there's actually, I think, 2 different ways you could do it. So there are ways you can give Ansible, you can set up a task that runs a specific Linux command, basically just runs a command, whatever command you give it. We could do it that way, but there is a way, Ansible update, there's a way to use their internal, I guess, to use the apt modules to be able to do that. And that's why modules are cool. It kind of gives you a different paradigm to be able to do it. And I think you can do this. I think you can just use the app module to update cache. So actually, I'm just gonna copy this and I'll paste it in. So you see me copy and pasting. This is just another task. I'm gonna run this first because it runs in order. And paste it here, and name. Oh, actually, I don't even update cache and install. Actually, I don't even need to do this. This is nice. And I only realized I don't need to do this because I read the name. It says update repositories, cache, and install foo. And this is actually a similar paradigm to what we have down here. So I actually don't think I need this. I actually think I can just do learning something new about Ansible. I actually think I can take this line here, and I think I can put this underneath here, and I think it'll work. So one quick thing, for Vim, if you want to copy and paste, you can do a Control V, or Shift V will highlight the whole line, and a Y will yank it. So that's a copy. To cut it, I think it's just an X, and so X will cut it, and then I can go right here and I can hit P, and P will paste it in. And so you can start to see how Vim is, once you get your commands down, it's super duper fast. Like it's like real fast if you know what you're doing, but it takes a long time to get there. And I think I can just do this. Now, I didn't know you could just do this, again, because I've only used Ansible for personal projects and never in production. So I've never had to really make sure it was like amazing. This looks good. Let's see if this works, and I would like this to work. Cache is not a valid task. Why is this different from... Oh, okay. No, I do need that. Never mind. I lied to you. I lied to you all. It's not a task. I need to use the apt module. I do need that piece. So I'm glad. I'm not glad, but I do not. I do need that in there. So is it under... It's above tasks, I think. Is it? Let me see. fix this foo name. I don't think I need this. I think I can just I could probably install Nginx with this command. Update, actually let's try this. Let's try this out. Let's try to do this and see Nginx package. No, because that'll just install it and then I'll have to make sure it's present here. Let's just update. Let's update here. Update repositories. And actually, I think this all needs to be outdented. But I'm gonna run it anyway and see what happens. Yes, so it's not. Again, YAML is a formatting. It's a markup language. So it's a the formatting matters. So you got to make sure it's right. I don't know though. I don't actually know where this needs to go. Let me just see if I can find an example really quick. I think it just needs to be outdented. We'll mess around with it. So that's right. I think it just needs to be like that. Error appears maybe elsewhere file depending on syntax problem. Line 4. App is not a valid attribute for play. How do I do this? And this was annoying about well, more so that I just don't write enough playbooks to know what the levels are for like task and what the formatting is, but I didn't think it would go under task. I don't think this is a task, but I can copy it. Let's go into the visual editor and let's X that. That sucks. I copied the wrong. No. Undo. There we go. I'm gonna copy and paste. I don't think it goes under task, but we're gonna find out for sure. I might have to. Let me look at that. Maybe I outdent that. App goes right under name. Okay, that looks like valid YAML. So I guess it does go under there. So thank you. And 3 spaces after task. So yeah, so the formatting is good. There's probably a way in if you have to write these inside of VS Code, there's probably some YAML formatters you can grab to make sure it's valid YAML and to give you things to do, give you some advice on what to change, and give you more information about what's wrong with your YAML formatting. And I think also the Ansible plugin for Visual Studio Code does that as well. So if you're doing any Ansible development locally, because again, your machine is a control node or can be a control node, you do it there, and you can use the VS Code for that. And there's a lot of tools that it has available to you to make sure you don't make those dumb mistakes. But yeah, you'll spend time. If you're building infrastructure as code, you'll be writing YAML and you'll have to figure that stuff out. So this run looks way better than any of our runs before. We didn't get a bunch of red stuff. It went ahead and it gathered facts here. And you can see here, when it went to update repositories, it's letting us know, oh no, wait, resize. All right, cool. No, oh, there we go. It came back. And let us know that things changed during this section. when it went to install Nginx, because Nginx was not installed on any of these by default. It let us know that that changed. Enable Nginx during boot. That must have been okay already. I don't know why that would have happened. Maybe that's something that went through before. But it let us know everything that changed and the things that were already okay. And if I run it again, if I run it again, it should let me know that just everything is okay rather than changed. And so I think it changed this for update repositories because it simply ran the update, which it always will do, even if there aren't any updates. So it'll let you know that things change, but everything else remains the same because everything was already set up well. And now we can confirm that Nginx is installed and running by checking the IP address of those servers. Copy. Paste this in, and we get the Nginx welcome page. So server number 1, or this is inventory number 2 is working, and let's make sure the changes were also made to inventory number 1. Let's paste it. All right, and so just like that, we have 2 Nginx servers that are up and running so quickly. And now you can imagine now that if, you know, all you would have to do, let's say your friend had a simple site, mostly HTML site that linked out to something else, and they or a simple e-commerce site or something, and you know, again, I use this example all the time, but maybe it was they were featured on the Ellen show, and you had to make sure that they were able to get enough traffic because people are about to blow it up, or maybe it's gonna get the Reddit hug of death, and you're like, hey, all right, I know what to do now. Like we make a big database, and now I need some servers to handle the load. You can go ahead and use Terraform to, you know, quickly spin up, you know, a bunch of these. And so you don't have to actually specify these individually. There are easier ways to tell how, like to say, I want a server of this type, only specify this once, and I want this many number of them. There are ways to do that, which is really nice in Terraform. So you do not have to write 100 resource blocks to do that at all, which is really nice. But you can set it to 100. Go ahead and deploy those 100 servers. It'll happen really fast, and then you basically have your Ansible set up. And again, anything can be a control node. All you do now is need to put those things in your inventory file, and there are ways to automate that process as well. But you throw them in the inventory file, and you can go ahead and you can deploy out to 100 servers all at once. All the things that you need to run your friend's application, so that your friend's application can manage all the traffic and handle all the traffic that's coming into it. So very, very simple use case that we use this for tonight. And I'm going to also push this stuff up to GitHub. But maybe we can make a change really quick. Nah, not with the amount of time that's left. Because you can again use this to do all kinds of stuff. Again, you can use it to manage users. You can use it to mount network drives. You can use it to do everything that you can do from the Linux command line, all the manual processes that you usually do. You can use this to automate any manual process that you usually do. Again, put files onto the servers, anything like that. So literally anything that we normally do, you can use this for. You can use this to replace scripts. So if we actually went back to the bash scripting lab, all the things that we did in that script, again, I think we created a bunch of users. I think we installed a few things. I think we moved some files around and put some information other places. I think we put like a welcome script at a certain place. Again, this tool kind of negates your need to script. Again, it's not always feasible that this is the right answer. Just because it does these things doesn't mean it's always the right answer. But again, for things at scale, you have to manage multiple servers and things at once. This is what you want to go with. And again, it's not, although like this isn't like you wouldn't just know what to write at first, this is not incredibly difficult to read. Again, it's hosts, web servers, and you know, maybe I don't know what gather facts does, but I know that we're doing it. I know that it says yes. I know that we're doing gather facts. And sudo, I know what sudo means, and using yes probably means that we're going to be using sudo here. And as you get into task, you know, the name gives you exactly what it does. So even if you don't know anything else about it, you can look through the tasks and say, all right, I know these Ansible playbooks are updating our repositories, and then they're installing Nginx, and then they are enable Nginx during boot, and they have a way to restart Nginx. So very simply, up front, you have a documented script which you can run through. And again, that's also called a playbook. It's basically a script that's just written in a format that Ansible knows how to process and knows how to manage. Yeah, but that is basically it. I would encourage someone to run through. I would encourage you, if you want to learn more about Ansible specifically, it gets pretty deep. And again, so there are things like variables. So let's say you're not using the apt module and you want to install a package, but you're running more than one operating system. Let's say you're running half of your servers for some reason are Ubuntu, half of your servers for some reason are Red Hat 7 or whatever. There are ways where you can, there are other ways to do it. You don't have to do this with variables like this, but there are ways you can do some stuff where maybe I have in my inventory file, sudo vim etc ansible host. There's some cool ways you can do things like maybe all of my web servers that are running Ansible are running Ubuntu are web servers Ubuntu, and then maybe I have a whole different setup here of servers that are Rail based, and let's say IV, and maybe this one is rel, and then maybe I set up some variables here and I say web, and this is probably not the best way to do it, but it's just show you, it's the same way, it's the same way you would set up a script, same way you would set up an application. There are many ways to do it, and maybe I would say rel vars, and maybe I would say I would set up one that says for something like Apache, for Apache package, and I would say on rel Apache package is equal to HTTPD, and if I was up here and I was doing web server -Ubuntu vars, I could say something like this: Apache package equals Apache 2. I think that's what it is. I think that's the name of the package on Ubuntu versus the name of the package on rel. And then in my so I will put something like this, and then in my actual example.yaml, I would go ahead and I would just do the name of the package here. I wouldn't use apt. I would use just a generic install command, and I would basically set up a little, I'll basically call the variable like this, and I could say Apache package, and I can put it in here, and it will be smart enough to know to reference the stuff that's in here, and it will be able to pull out that package name and properly do that. So yeah, so I'm not yeah, this isn't intended to be right. I'm not actually running this. I just want to show you kind of something that you could do. There are other ways to handle this. There are like 4 other ways to handle package names, but variables are pretty cool. So I would run through this so you could figure out how to, install certain things. You have options of you have loops. You actually have loops available to you. I wonder if they talk about that at all here. Conditionals. So again, these are all things that we talked about during the programming course. So the second and third stream, we talked about a lot of these things. And so all of these things apply to here to be able to help you set up and configure servers how you want. So you have conditionals, if else statements, statements that determine something to be true or false, and perform actions based on those things. You have loops. So again, you can install, a loop right here that says, hey, run this, but run it for all of these things. Loop through and run it for each of these items. So if you want to install a bunch of packages, you don't need to keep writing a new install statement. You can loop through, and you just have a lot of options available to you. Again, it can replace scripting, but again, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me to use this for one server or something like that, because, well, It might if you need to make changes to that server pretty often, or you do get documentation by default. But this is designed to be used at scale on multiple instances to make sure things are up to date. Yeah, I would run through. This is looks like a pretty cool step-by-step guide. Actually, it sucks that we didn't get to go through the whole thing, but it seems interesting. So I would, hit exclamation point Ansible, save that link. If you need it, I can post it as well. The commands, actually, I remove them from the little. I remove them from the panel to not confuse people, but they are there forever. So if you need information about Ansible, or you want this again, or if you want to learn stuff about S3 and stuff, all that stuff is still there. So if you type in like EBS, that's still there. You can still get all that information that we've had previously. And I think you can type in exclamation point commands, and it'll give you a link to all the commands that we have available to us. So you can hit that, it'll give you a URL, and you can, if you forget one of the commands, you can go ahead and grab it, I believe, as well. But yeah, does anyone have any questions? Again, I know it wasn't super deep into Ansible. Hopefully you, again, got out of it that you can use it to manage, lots of servers. You can have managed nodes. You can set up an inventory of a bunch of different types of servers, and you can write these declarative files that allow you to very easily, set up the state in which you desire them to be in, and it will go ahead and it will go through and make sure that these things are in that state. It's also worth noting, let's say like I'm running these two servers. Let's say Nginx died on one of them. Actually, let's do that real quick. Let's stop Nginx on one of them. Hold on, CD. Because I SSH'd one earlier, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go sudo service Nginx stop. I'm gonna stop Nginx really quick, and if I do status, it's stopped right now, and I'm gonna log back out of here, and I'm gonna run cd Ansible, actually cd playbooks, and if I run this again. Whoa. Never mind. I forgot I made all those changes to the host file, to the inventory file. But if I was to run this again, and maybe I'll go in and fix them real quick. If I was to run this again, you would see it go through, and it wouldn't make any changes to the first one, to one of them, because that one's in a good state. That one's in the consistent state that we expect it to be in. But the one that I made changes on now, is not in that state. Nginx is not running, and it will go ahead and it'll start up that for you, because it'll get it back to the state in which it is supposed to be in. So this is also really nice, because this is why the pushing method is nice, because maybe you still have a setup where people are able to log into servers, and someone's made a change, or you have a web server, like you're watching your monitors and it looks like one web server is having some weird issues. Once this runs, you have this on a cron. There's ways for this to, run intermittently. You can run it, and it may put the server back into a great state and fix everything. It stops that configuration drift, and if something is breaking, it can fix that for you. But one of the caveats is that it also masks problems. So I've actually seen times when Apache was overloaded on every single server, and it would stay up just long enough on a few to not be a problem, and Chef would come along and run, and it would fix the ones that were broken, and those would be good for another 20 minutes, and then get overloaded and then die, and Chef would fix that, and it took a long time before we even noticed it was a problem. So sometimes this type of state management can mask issues, but generally it's very good. It's a very good tool to help you manage infrastructure, manage servers. That notification warning, you were right the first time, become user. Yeah, the become user thing is real weird. It's real weird. So let me actually put this back. Sudo, let me see if I can put this back to where it was. DD, and just so I can show you, it will update properly. I can probably leave that stuff in there. And all right, so it's running again, and you can see here, it failed. Something failed. Oh, why did that fail? Actually, the task includes an option of undefined variable. Oh, that's fine. That's probably has to do with more of my non-cleanup here, even though it shouldn't be running this at all. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I know what I did wrong. I need to actually edit this, and this package was Nginx. All right, and I'll run this again, and we should see here gather facts, and so you can see here, enable Nginx during boot. It changed for this one, and yeah, so set it back to, it should have set it back to a running state. So if we SSH, let's cd, if I do cd service Nginx status, we can see now here where I killed it before, it is now active and it is running. It did a good job of getting that back up and running again, which is very good. Yeah. That's why you should have something like App Insights and Azure product. See what's wrong. Absolutely. So I think we're getting into monitoring and logging pretty soon. Let's actually look at the Academy Mastermind Diet. What do we have left? When are we getting into that? So monitoring and logging is very important. That observability into knowing whether or not your application is operating as you intended is very important. Again, we did not have we didn't yet have good observability and monitoring and logging in to our system yet at the time of that, but we are finishing up this one today. This part's gonna be fun. I'm telling you, containers are gonna be fun. But containers gonna be fun. Definitely fun for sure. I'm really excited about this portion. I really love teaching Docker. I really love getting hands-on with Docker. It's gonna be really fun. And then we're gonna get into CI/CD and then monitoring and logging. So right here is when we'll learn things, like Amazon's services and some other services as well for monitoring and logging and being able to know what's going on. I might switch this up to Nagios and not Monit. Monit is not necessarily a common tool. We're probably not going to use Datadog either. At the time, I was talking to someone from Datadog and I was working with them, and we were trying to do a little partnership thing, and I was going to use Datadog for this. There are some other options for that, and we might just use Amazon's sucky CloudWatch dashboards to be able to do a little bit of APM stuff, or maybe New Relic or something. But yeah, we're gonna use some cool tools here to be able to know when our applications are having problems. Yeah, but yeah, so containers next week. Again, if you are new to the stream, on next week, I will be traveling on Wednesday. I'll be going to a conference, so I will be doing part 1 on Monday as normal. I'll be doing part 2 of containers on Tuesday, live on Tuesday. So if you can make it and you think you're gonna have questions, try to hop on Tuesday. If you can't make it, no biggie. I found out that Twitch has a replay feature, and it will replay at 8 p.m. on Wednesday of next week. And although I won't be live streaming, I will be available. I'll try to be in the chat to answer questions as people ask them, and interacting in that way. But I just won't be. I don't think I'll have the internet access to be able to live stream it. So yeah. So again, Monday and Tuesday next week are when we're streaming, and a replay of Tuesday will happen on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Will I eventually do a React course? So, great question. Well, first off, what about Zabbix? I will not be doing anything with Zabbix. I will not be. I'll leave it there. Not really a popular industry tool, to be 100% honest with you. But yeah, I probably won't be doing anything with Zabbix. React course. I will probably do a JavaScript course. maybe. I will probably have someone else do a web development course. I'm talking to a few people. I will probably have some. I'm not the person you want teaching you React. I actually know a fair amount of React. I've written a fair amount of React in the past 6 months, way more than I thought I would ever write. But I'll probably have someone who has more experience on the web development side of things teach web development. Because I do think web development is important. That I think is something a lot of people want to pick up, and I think it's a great tool, great discipline as well. So working on that. That probably web development probably won't be coming until mid next year, and I'll probably have someone else doing that. Containers are nice because they kind of throw configuration management out of the window. That is true. Yes, containers are nice. They do throw configuration management out of the window. There are some instances where you still can use configuration management tools to orchestrate your containers. I've done that before with Chef. There are better options for that, but you got to do what you got to do. You got to work within the bounds and the tools that you've been given. Good to know. I think Nagios is dominating now. Nagios has been big for forever. It's old. Nagios, I don't know if it's quite solves the same thing. I've actually never used it, but everyone talks a lot about Prometheus, which I think is a similar type of tool. This might be a little. Oh, this is different. This is definitely different. For sure different. Monit is the one I was going to use only, not because it's a better tool, but because it is easier to set up and configure than Nagios is. Nagios, I might pre-set up Nagios and just add to it because Nagios takes a little bit of Nagios has a little bit more setup. Monit, you see up and running in 15 minutes. Same thing as Nagios, same kind of alerting system. But again, not a very popular industry tool. So that we might choose something different for that. So the next class is Monday at 8 p.m. Yep, absolutely. Every Monday and Wednesday. Every Monday and Wednesday for the next until the day before Halloween. Yeah, until the day before Halloween. So the 30th is when this boot camp ends. There will be more boot camps, and I will continue to stream. I'll dive deeper into for the rest of the year. For the rest of the year after this is up, I will basically be doing like week to 2 week deep dives into each of the individual things. So instead of things that we had to spend like today, we only spent 2 hours on Ansible, we'll dive a full week or two into configuration management and doing some cool things. I'm actually trying to get together like a sample infrastructure that we can kind of, one, take a legacy architecture and set it up, be able to set it up manually ourselves, like actually log into a server, install all the stuff, make it this big thing, get the application running, and then over a few weeks break it down into microservices, and maybe then set it up, add some automation, script some things out, set up some configuration management to do those things for us, and some infrastructure automation around that, and then break that down even further and turn it into microservices and containerize the application, the pieces of it. So I'm trying to think of some good ways to do that, because I think this is kind of the dip your toe in and get familiar with all the different things, but I would like to dive more into implementation, real world implementation, because I think that would be more valuable. So I'm trying to figure out a good paradigm for that, and I'm definitely open to some options for that, but I'll be trying to figure that out in the coming weeks as well. Keep people moving away from Nagios. Nagios is just one of those things it was such a standard that even with a lot of people moving away from it, it's still tons of people are still using it. I don't know. I don't think you need to know Nagios super well, but Nagios is still a thing. A lot of places you'll go. I saw the group code channel. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that, Shug. Pretty dope. I'm definitely gonna try to get more active in there. I think things are kind of coming down at work, which is great. We were on kind of a time crunch to get some things done, and we basically got those things done. And now we're not 100 miles an hour anymore, so I'll be able to do all that stuff. Yes, we are gonna write. I dug into doing some development with Twitch's API. Absolutely, we are gonna build. We're definitely going to build some type of plugin or moderation for Nightbot. I think that would be fun. And I think we should also build a few other things. I think there's some cool things we can build into the Twitch pipeline. I'm going to also create a repo for ideas. Like if anyone just has like, you know, even if you're not, you know, something you can implement now, something you're still learning how to code, you don't know how to code at all, but you're like, this would be a great idea that we could either do or something cool for someone to tackle. I just kind of want to just make literally a text document, a Git repository with just a text document that people can just toss their ideas into. I think that would be pretty cool. I promise not to steal any and start a company from them. So don't throw any like, you know, excellent ideas that you want to start a company from in there. Definitely make sure they're fun, kind of open source things that you don't mind other people working on, because I can't guarantee that someone else isn't going to steal them, but I promise you that I won't steal them. But yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you all for joining in. Again, if you're new, every Monday and Wednesday we'll be back on Monday at 8 p.m. with containers. You can head over to academy.mastermind.io to see that. These also do get uploaded if you missed the first 14 or whatever. They are all on YouTube. This one will get uploaded to YouTube tomorrow, and they're all there if you want to go there and catch up, or just to re-go over something to try to follow along, you know, in your own time. They are on YouTube. Get ready for containers on Monday. Docker is pretty dope. It's really dope, and a lot of people are interested in Docker and Kubernetes right now. Pays a lot of money, so it's a great skill to pick up. But that is it. Everyone have a good weekend. Get some rest. Hopefully the last couple of days of work are good. I actually think Columbus Day is coming up here in the US, so that gives us all an extra day off. Actually, I think that's the following Monday. I'll still stream that day, so that's not a day off for this. But yeah, cool. See y'all then. Appreciate the I don't really know what these bits are for yet. I think they're worth money, but I appreciate that. That's my Uncle Kev, I believe. I'm assuming that's you. I really appreciate it. I'm supposed to do some work right now, but I think I'm gonna play a little bit of Overwatch. So I'll talk to you all later. Peace out.